Okay, so we have seen the cardiac cycle, and there are a few important points that we need to know about the cardiac cycle. Now, I have already told you that the average heartbeat is 72 beats per minute, right? So this is the average heartbeat. Now, the second point that you need to know is that the duration of one cardiac cycle is about, let's write it, duration is about 0.8 seconds. This is the duration of one cardiac cycle, right? The next thing that you need to know, it is something called the stroke volume. The stroke volume. Now, the stroke volume, it is the amount of blood which is pumped out by the ventricle in one cycle. So, amount of blood pumped by ventricle in one cycle, and this is about 70 milliliters of blood that is pumped out. Now, if we multiply the stroke volume with the number of beats per minute, we get something called the cardiac output. Now, how do we define cardiac output? Cardiac output, it can be defined as the volume of blood pumped out by each ventricle in 1 minute, right? So do not get confused by the stroke volume, because it was the amount of blood pumped by the ventricle in one cycle, that is the one complete cycle. But in 1 minute, the number of cycles are going to be more. So that is why we are multiplying the beats per minute, that is number of beats in 1 minute, by the amount of blood that is being delivered in one cycle. Then we get the total cardiac output. And one more thing that you know is the first heartbeat. Now, if we listen to the heartbeat, there would be 2 beats that we can listen to. If we put in the stethoscope, or if we hear the sound of the heart. So the first heartbeat, it is called the lub sound, and it is associated with the closing of the bicuspid valve and the tricuspid valve. So this is the first heartbeat, which is called the lub sound, and the second heartbeat is referred to as the dub sound. So this is actually related to the closing of the rest of the valves, that is the semilunar valves. Alright, so these were some of the important things that you need to know, and you might expect numericals from this formulae. This formulae, you have to remember this one. You have to remember this for objective. And you also have to remember the definition of the stroke volume. So basically, these points are very important that you need to know about the cardiac cycle. Alright, so in the next one, we are going to look at the ECG, or the electrocardiograph, and we are going to relate the waves with the different, the different actions inside the heart. We are not just going to memorize the whole thing. We are not going to memorize the waves, which is called the P wave, the Q wave, the R wave. So we are going to look into the different actions of the heart that are making the waves. That is how you're going to, develop a long-term memory about this. So all of that in the next video.